So, you're in basic training. You just got off the bus. You're getting yelled at. You go through that 6 weeks later. You graduate from one of the hardest things you've ever done in your life. You move on to your career. You live in Japan, live in Turkey, Montana, and Oklahoma. You've done 10 years. You've done countless situations that you can't even fathom to explain. And you're sitting in front of two hiring managers who are hiring you for a job as a trainer that you've been doing 10 years in this previous job. You go through a 2-hour interview. You feel like you've got it. You leave. You get a call a week later finding out that you were not concise enough for what they needed for the job. So how does this happen? Well, in this situation, I had been thinking about this time and time again, which led me to doing some research. And what I found is that our hiring process across the board is ineffective. And why is that? One statistical argument states, as discussed by Dr. Sullivan on LinkedIn Business, that Leadership IQ found that an astounding 46% of all new hires fail within 18 months in the study that they concluded. That means that less than half couldn't do the job. And the reason for that, I believe, is because, one, the way in which we're hiring with the managers is not appropriate. We need somebody to fit in the business construct. Two, the skill sets for the job are important, and I don't know if we're asking the right questions in regards to that. And three, lastly, the tracking system and the actual application sites that we use are ineffective. So, when it comes to the hiring managers, as stated by Associate Professor John Moore from Forbes.com, managers are consistently overconfident in their abilities to identify the best candidates using a job interview. And this is a problem because as a hiring manager and a personal experience with working with somebody who was a hiring manager in an organization, their job is to identify the best fit for the job who will actually be able to work with the actual employees and not cause a problem. But the issue here is that you have one individual deciding on a group of people. So what I believe should be effective is that the entire organization, the work center that's going to be working with them on a regular day-to-day basis, should come out and actually talk to them as well to get a feel for if this person's a fit for their personalities. Because as I've seen from different supervisors in different places, this is not always effective to just have that person hired on and then somehow assume it's going to work. Personalities clash, and you want somebody who's the best personality type for the job. With that being said, skill set's also important. So job skills are hard to identify from the jump. Somebody may say they've done X, Y, and Z. Certifications typically help with that situation, but you really can't know until they get into the job. So as stated by Inc.com, there's two questions that should be asked primarily to help with that. Is why are you here? Of course, this is partly introspective because this asks why do you want to work with this company, which tells them the importance. And the other question is why shouldn't I hire you? And that helps identify why that person has skill sets that shouldn't be adequate for the job. The only problem here is that this is a one-touch situation. Now, it's also shown that statistical data has actually shown that from that Forbes article previously stated that actual scientific tests, assessment tests like personality tests, skills tests help. And personally, I've done skill set tests with Amazon that I felt were highly effective. With that being said, along with the actual hiring process, the last part of it that's a big issue is the tracking system they utilize to identify your resume, and also your interview or your job search sites. So with the tracking system, it identifies keywords within your document. This is a problem because if you look on these job search sites, you see things like B2B, which is business to business. You see things like the actual inside sales. And the nomenclature for each job is different. This also plays into why those job search sites are ineffective, because one job calls for this, one job calls it that way. I've seen account representative, which is the same thing as selling things to people, which has also been called, like I said before, business to business, or other types of nomenclature. And that makes it hard for the job recipient who's going out to actually look for a job. If they have sales, they're going to say, okay, what's B2B? Or what is this outside sales position? It's very confusing and muddy and convoluted. So what I posit is that A, we standardize the nomenclature across the board to make it easier. And it's somewhat standardized, but there's certain variances that companies do. Utilizing these job search sites. B, for the job search sites, I believe that we should make sure that these job search sites use keywords to be able to link the two recipients. With the job search sites as well, we need to make sure that they understand certain specifics that we're looking for. For instance, I look for anything that wants a bachelor's in business management because that's the degree I have. I don't find that very often. Typically, it just says a bachelor's in this, but when you go to input that into the search bar, you find all sorts of things. I once inputted into the search bar entry-level business analyst, and it spit out senior business analyst. That is not effective. If I'm looking for entry-level, a senior business analyst is not entry-level. That is top tier. So what I'm positing is that that's also part of the problem, is that we have these databases that we use for hiring that don't help, and also that the job applicant is applying through that also doesn't help identify the right fit. So those are some things that could be improved as well. But overall, as stated before, the actual interview process and hiring process is flawed. The reason for this is that we're not asking the proper question, does that person fit the personality of our work center? The other question with not having the right skill set and also not having the best pool of individuals because the tracking system has already spit them out, and the interview hiring sites has also led them to a different path or a different career or whatever it is, so they don't understand that might have been right fit for them. Without all being said, hopefully with those changes, we can see a more effective and improved hiring process that'll save the headache of people, hiring managers and individuals alike, like my situation, where we spend 2 hours thinking we've done a really good job and we have the right person for the right job, only to be realized that's not who we want. Thank you.